Joining us now here on the Chiefs Report is none other than Danan Hughes. You'll hear him on the Chiefs Radio Network on the call for Super Bowl 59 alongside the great Mitch Holtis. Danan joins us right now. Danan, what an exciting time. Chiefs going for the three-peat. What's kind of your initial thoughts on the matchup?
I'm excited, man. This is a great time to be a Chiefs fan. Great time to be in the Chiefs kingdom. I mean, who would have thought back in the 90s when we had all those debilitating losses in the postseason that we would be in this situation now. So I'm relishing this opportunity. It's my 5th year in the booth, 4 Super Bowls in. So I'm excited, man. I think it's going to be a blast.
Oh, unbelievable. And for this team to get back here, the thing that I keep wondering is what's different about this time compared to some of the other Super Bowls now that this dynasty has been a part of. Anything stand out to you? Their approach or how they're taking in this week?
I think there's a couple of things. One, the fact, and I hate that we lost the last game against the Denver Broncos. One, because they're the Denver Broncos, but two, because it adds a little bit of a stain to the season. So I just referenced that we were 15-1 during the season. That's basically when we've had our core of starters. And to think that we've played the most football of any team in the past half decade. We come into the season, you have to open up the season playing the team you beat in the AFC Championship. The next week playing Cincinnati Bengals, who has become somewhat of a rival. Then you fast forward, and the league was so generous, so nice to us to schedule us 3 games in 11 days during the final stretch of the season. 3 of our 4 final games were on the road against AFC opponents. So I feel like one of the things that jumps out to me is the fact that we literally took not just the bullets from everybody, but we took some bombs, and we were able to withstand that to secure a number 1 seed. And then the other major thing is we have an opportunity to make history.
Yeah.
And I think that has to be the resonating message that you hear around the Chiefs kingdom. And that's what I've been sharing through the Texans game, through the Bills game. And here we are now, is that those teams were trying to steal history from us.
Yeah.
And we were able to get past them. So I feel like that, that still gives me a little bit of chills. And I think that gives a lot of Chiefs fans the chills as well.
We're talking to Danan Hughes right now, the color analyst for the Chiefs Radio Network, looking ahead to Super Bowl 59 here in New Orleans. Let's talk about the quarterback matchup, Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts. Jalen put on a show a couple years ago, and you look at Patrick, he's come through time and time again in these circumstances. I think Patrick's going to play a great game. I don't know what we're going to see from Jalen Hurts. What do you think about these two when they square off?
Yeah, I think they're the top echelon and quarterbacks, and I know there's a negative stigmatism when you talk about managing the game and being a game manager as a quarterback, but that's what you got with both guys. Even though they have the firepower, they have the ability to make the big plays when necessary, they have done a great job of getting their teams to this position by managing the game, by not making mistakes. Patrick Mahomes hasn't thrown an interception in his last 288 attempts. Jalen Hurts, over 200 attempts, both records for each of those guys. So they become smarter, more mature players, and they know how to lead their offense, and they know how to delegate.
Yeah.
And that's what you see with Jalen Hurts. He has a great running game in Saquon Barkley, has 2 incredible wide receivers, an amazing tight end in Dallas Goedert, and he just knows how to regulate everything. That's what's gotten him here. So I feel like there's some similarities in each team. It's going to make for a good matchup.
You mentioned Saquon Barkley, and that's obviously the key of Philadelphia's offense. What do the Chiefs need to do defensively to slow him down?
I think you have to recognize, one, it's not going to take one guy to bring him down. It has to be multiple red helmets. That's the way you stop running games. A lot of people put an emphasis on putting 8 guys in the box. Problem with that is you don't want to do that too often, because all it takes is 1 missed tackle, 1 missed assignment, and he's going to be running for another 60-plus yard touchdown like we've seen on several occasions this season. So I feel like stopping him on first down, getting them in more predictable situations, 2nd and long, 3rd and long, try to stay away from 4th and 1, 4th and 2, where they can extend the drives with the tush push, and that's got to be the mindset. The game is physical, but the game is extra physical when you talk about a team that wants to run it down your throat. And there's no more debilitating, disrespectful act in football than when you run the ball against the team, and they have no other remedy for it. So I feel like the Chiefs will take it to heart. They'll take it personal to try to stop the run game.
Yeah, that's going to be huge. And on the Chiefs side of things, the offensive line, the much talked about offensive line this season, we know the interior is going to hold their own. But then you look at that left tackle spot. Joe Tooney, of course, has done a really good job, but they still haven't got the run game going the way they would like to. Do you think that's a byproduct more of the offensive line, or is it more of the running backs?
I think it's a mixture of all, but I've also said this on many occasions. The tricky thing about the run game is, especially when you have the greatest quarterback in the game in Patrick Mahomes, is every time he hands the ball off, the greatest player doesn't have the ball. So how many times, if you're Matt Nagy, if you in the past you were Eric Bieniemy, if you were Peterson, if you were all these offensive coordinators as well as Andy Reid, how many times in the game are you comfortable with the best player on the field not having the ball? It's that simple. And so with the run game, if we can establish it, great. But if we can run it when it's necessary, like we've done in the postseason games, when we're not giving the ball back at crucial times, then I think that's a win too. So it might not show up glowingly in the stats, but I think it can be still effective.
When you look at that defense for Philadelphia, obviously the number one ranked scoring defense in the National Football League, where do you think the Chiefs offense can find those mismatches? Where are there some weak spots they can take advantage of, you think?
I think in the middle of the field. I think what we've been able to use as an asset for our offense is crossing routes, pick routes, slant routes, having guys that have defined roles like DeAndre Hopkins. He's not going to run past anybody down the middle of the field. He's going to look for slants, hitches, back shoulder throws, and then pick routes, shallow crosses where Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy can use their speed if they're able to get open. And if you get defenses looking this way, then that's when you're able to gash them down the middle of the field and down the field for chunk yardages. So I'd like to see a healthy dose of the crossing routes like we've seen has gotten us to the point. Misdirection, jet sweeps, getting those guys up front, those three Georgia boys up front for the Eagles, getting them to hesitate just a bit. If we can get them to hesitate to wonder where the ball is or where it's going, then that's going to be a huge bump for us.
When I look at the Super Bowl, historically speaking, Danan, one of the things I always come back to is who's going to be your X factor to step up, whether it's going all the way back to David Tyree with the Giants or even more recently with McCole Hardman with the Chiefs here. Who is somebody that we're not talking about that we should be talking about as potentially being that difference maker?
So I'm going to point, obviously I made my career as a wide receiver, but mainly as special teams as well. So we've seen two huge plays in special teams from Nico Remigio against the Texans and the Bills. So I'm going to say he's a guy that can be a catalyst from a special team standpoint, whether it's a punt return or kick return, that can jumpstart this team, or if the momentum gets away from us, can reignite the momentum on our side and kickstart our offense. From an offensive perspective, Noah Gray has really had a fine season, being that complementary tight end and H-back and fullback at time when all the focus is on Travis Kelce. So if you're saying diamonds in the rough, guys outside the box, I'm going to go with Nico on special teams. I'm going to go with Noah Gray on the offensive side. I still think Kareem Hunt is going to have a good game as well, be a thumper between the tackles. And then defense, I like to see Jalen Watson really showcase that he's fully back as a shutdown corner that I think he was headed towards early in the season.
I think you're spot on there, Jalen Watson. Great answer as we're talking to Danan Hughes right now here on the Chiefs Report by Chat Sports. Danan, a couple more things before we wrap up here. The coaching matchup, Andy Reid taking on Nick Sirianni, second time in 3 years. Andy, of course, chasing history. But I love his approach that, you know, we've heard these rumblings about retirement, all that. He's like, no, I just want to teach football, just want to win football games. I mean, Andy, so good, but such the right coach, it seems, for this team, along with Spags and company.
Yeah, it's a guy that you can cheer for. I mean, obviously, when you are winning so much, you have the haters, you have the people that want to doubt you and want to throw jabs at you, your accomplishments. But Andy Reid seems like the guy that you just can't do that to.
Yeah.
He seems like the grandfather figure that you just don't ever want to have any kind of negativity towards. And I think there's a lot of respect between he and Nick Sirianni. Obviously, a lot of respect between their fan base and still him because of all the years he coached there and the successes that he had. So I feel like this is one of those games where the coaches is like a byproduct of everything. It's not necessarily at the forefront. Yeah, you're going to get some fiery things from Nick Sirianni, but I think Andy Reid just carries himself with great poise, with just the professionalism that you would want to see in a coach, and everybody wants to play for him. So to me, that's the number one factor, is that you're able to put your imprint upon your team in a way that they want to run through brick walls for you, and that's what he gets.
Danan, last thing. You're in the booth every week with Mitch, Dan Israel and company, doing an incredible job on the Chiefs Radio Network. Tell me what that is like, that experience of being next to one of the all-time best play-by-play announcers in Mitch Holtis and getting to talk directly to the Chiefs Kingdom. What a thrill that's got to be every week, from the preseason all the way to the Super Bowl.
Oh, it's an amazing, amazing experience. Mitch first started in this game 31 years ago, my second year in the NFL. So he got to call plays for me, call my touchdowns, call big plays, and now I'm in the booth. And people always ask me about if it's a dream come true, and I'm like, no, because I never would have guessed that I would have it. Like, I never dreamt it, because I would have thought Len Dawson would have lived forever. Kendall Gammon did an excellent job during his tenure. So I never thought of it as a dream, but now being in the booth, completing my 5th season, 4 Super Bowls, like, this experience has been amazing for me. So yeah, I'm looking forward to another 5 years, 10 years, or whatever. But what I can tell you about Mitch is that nothing is fabricated. Everything is truly within him. All the energy, all the air pumps, the air fists, the touchdown Kansas City, all of that energy is truly his passion for the Kansas City Chiefs and the NFL. And I just have to be a part of it, try not to mess it up sometimes, and play my role.
Danan, I love it. Appreciate the time. Best of luck on the call. We know you guys are going to do an incredible job, and looking forward to it. And the offseason will be here, and that's just another assignment for you. You're off to baseball coverage, right?
Yeah, I do some baseball for ESPN and the Big Ten Network, and looking forward to that transition. Baseball is my first love, so I get amped up about that time of the season as well.
He's Danan Hughes. I'm Tyler Jones. Thanks for joining us here on the Chiefs Report.